The first trapping that we have is frustration. And this is something that you can notice easily in every single human being, because when something doesn't work out, when something is happening that you don't like, when you have a goal, you strive for it, and you have a setback, you make a mistake, you fail, what is the first thing that you experience? We experience some form of frustration, which is completely normal because it is not what we want. We didn't get the desired outcome that we wanted, right? So we experience frustration. And frustration is good in so many ways. Now, when we don't deal healthily with this frustration, when we let this frustration get, sorry guys, I need to get some water. All right, when we let this frustration hold back and linger in us and accumulate because of some mistake we did or some setback or because things didn't work out. And when this frustration grows in us, we become bitter. And when we become bitter, it is difficult to have a positive, happy life because it is a form of toxic energy. We become passive aggressive, we become envious, we become judgmental. And this frustration, if it's not used purposefully to achieve your goals or channeled in a positive way to move forward, it will go into the second trapping, which is anger. When frustration accumulates, it becomes anger, and anger is a form of aggression. We're aggressing because things are not working out for us. We become bitter and we accumulate it. Wow, Jesus. I ate some almonds earlier and now it is not forgiving. It's trapped. Anyway. So when anger becomes traps, become toxic, and that is a common example of this is when people lash out or become passive aggressive and they're not even aware that they became so, angry. And they will tell you that I'm not an angry person, I never get angry type of thing. But you can see that they're like, everything is pissing them off and something is not happening as it expected, as they want it to be. It automatically pisses them off, okay? And that anger, when it's not channeled properly, because aggressiveness is human. Aggression is not a problem in itself. To have a desire of aggression is actually very good because, Jesus, we have this need to achieve things, to go forward, to move in a resourceful way. And when I use this aggressive energy to move forward, it will allow me to not let setback or mistake or difficulty hold me back. And that is a good use of aggression. I will push through the obstacles until I actually, get where I want. But when we trap it inside and we don't express it and we accumulate and we don't know what to do with it, at some point it explodes and we lash out on people and we become bitter and we become judgmental and we're no longer going forward, but we become victim of our own state. And now we start to blame people, we start to blame ourselves, we start to blame the economy, the government. We look for excuses about why we're not getting where we want and why things are like that and why we are like that. And so this becomes an excuse and a justification. And then we move into the third trapping, which is a big one, which is insecurity. When insecurity is also a form of trapping because it is this need, this urge to be better, to be good enough, to be successful, to have no weakness, to have no vulnerability, to hide any form of vulnerabilities and flaws. Because insecurity creates this inferiority complex, whereas I see people on social media who have amount of success or relationship or things that I desire, and I don't have it. And this creates this feeling of inadequacy, like not good enough, I don't have it. Why is it that I don't have it? And we become envious and we become jealous. But it comes from a place of insecurity because we doubt our own abilities. This is when we are consumed with doubts and worry and anxiety, and we don't believe in our own potential. We let fear get the best of us. We don't go after what we want. We wait to be ready. We wait for the right time. We wait. And insecurity is a difficult place to be because if you remain in an insecure environment for too long, and you're insecure in your own skin and your own mind, it's going to lead to low self-esteem and low confidence, and it's just going to spread like a fire in every behavior, the way you walk, the way you talk, the way you express yourself, and it's just going to isolate you. And the more it isolates you, the less likely you are to actually follow up on your intuition, on your ideas, on your desires. And that's why insecurity is a big trapping that holds most people back. But insecurity is also coming from a place of uncertainty, which is the number 4. We don't like uncertainty as human beings because our ego wants to be in control. I want to know, I want guarantees, I want to control the outcome. And the reason we get pissed off and we get angry when things don't work out is because our ego expectations are not what we want. And so things are happening outside of what we wanted them to happen. And we're taking things too personally, and we let it affect us, and we identify with our mistake or with our failures or with our difficulties. Now, it's ironic because when we are too cautious because of uncertainty and we're waiting for the right time, for the perfect condition to be good enough, to have the right skill, the right mindset, we're waiting for something that will never come. Because you will never have guarantees in life. It is the purpose of life. The nature of life is that you never know what's going to unfold. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the moment is just what it is right now. But because we want to control outcomes, we don't want to make mistakes. And when we have this fear of uncertainty and fear of the unknown, and that is fueled by this insecurity that we talked about, we become stuck. But life is risky, and that's one of the main things that sets successful people apart, is that they're willing to take risk. They're willing to put everything on the line if they really believe that this is the right thing to do. And sometimes you have to, because life is risky. Nobody gets out of life alive. That's how risky life is. So you gotta have to take some risk at some point. But if you protect yourself too much, you're actually protecting yourself from the very things you want, from experiencing life. And that is not a good place, because this leads to sometimes loneliness. And loneliness is the trapping number 5. It's interesting that we live in a day and age when everybody is so connected. And right now I can talk to people on Facebook from my place, from all around the world. And it's so amazing. I can send messages, instant response, blah, blah, blah. But we have more people than ever who are feeling lonely, alone. Chronic loneliness is like the new disease of the century, which is fucked up in a way. Being alone is not a problem. Being alone, it can be very good in many regards, because it gets you to check in with yourself. But chronic loneliness is a problem, because it's very difficult. Because as human beings, we are above all, we are social beings, social animals. We need a tribe, we need to belong, we need a group, we need friends, we need family, we need human interaction. But often enough, when people feel chronic loneliness, it is not because there is lack of relationship around them, because people are all around, but it's also a form of self-protection. Whereas when I feel lonely, or I get to a place where I feel chronically lonely, is because I want to hide myself. I want to protect myself. I want to keep myself in a bubble where I don't have to experience any hurt, any breakup, any being rejected, being hurt, being confronted to things. So for many people, loneliness is actually a bubble of protection, where they protected themselves so much from all external possible danger that now, they feel lonely because there's nothing around them. But they don't reach out to people either, because they know that there is a risk of being rejected. There is a risk of being not liked. God forbid you're not being liked by somebody. Right? What are you gonna fucking do if somebody tells you? So you're in that place where you feel so insecure and so uncertain that leads you to loneliness. And chronic loneliness is a big trapping that is experienced by so many people. And it's not a good place to be, because if you linger too much there, you're gonna end up in feeling emptiness. Emptiness is also a big trapping of the failure type of things I was talking earlier, because emptiness eventually creates a hole, a void between yourself. And the universe doesn't like voids, because whenever there's a void, there's a need to fill the void, the vacuum. Yeah. And that's why people end up addicted to shit, Netflix, fucking food, because every time I feel something, oh my God, I feel that void, I try to fill it up, either with food, with alcohol, with addiction, with porn, with sex, with social media, with you name it. But that void won't go away because of any external thing that we try to fill it with. It is something that can only happen internally. But most often, interestingly enough, that void is created because we have a lack of purpose in life. We have a lack of meaningful goal. We don't follow our desires. We've so checked out in life because of our anxiety, our fear, or worry, that it created our insecurity, uncertainty, and this emptiness, this void that we're trying to fill. When we don't even know what the fuck is the void. We just know that it's not nice. We don't know what to do with it. And so I'm just gonna fill it up with anything that can distract me or fill me or make me happy, which is only a short-term trapping. And eventually it just grows and it consumes you. And then what do? Right? You have to fill it up even more and more. But the only way you can actually deal with this is actually creating meaning in life. Meaning something greater than yourself looking forward. So you need a vision of your life, something that drives you so much that will actually fill, the desire will actually fill this emptiness with something new, something you're reaching out for. But most people have desires, they know what they want, but they don't fucking go after it. And so when you don't follow your heart, so to speak, too often, too much, you end up in this trapping when you may have money, you may have a good job, you may have a nice wife, you may have all those nice things, but you're so fucking miserable because it's not really what you fucking want. Yeah. And that's why you see so many people who have it all, right? And that just kill themselves because in reality, they didn't really have them all. They didn't really have what they really wanted, what they were really craving. But you really have to check in with yourself to find out what you really want, who you really are, and remove all those layers that we talked about, that frustration that becomes anger, that becomes insecurity, that creates uncertainty, and then that creates loneliness, and that creates then this emptiness in yourself. I hope that makes sense, guys. So you have to check in with yourself. The work is not without, it is not in achieving the goal, but it's in creating something between you, this fire between you, to check in what is it that really drives me to wake up in the morning, to live, to be, to grow life. Because when you grow life, you grow yourself, and the universe is always expanding. And when you're expanding, you don't go into atrophy, you go into entropy, meaning you don't move into chaos, you move into further expansion and energy. And that's the true meaning of life. Whatever expansion you choose to grow in whatever way is good for you. And that's what creates the difference between successful people and the others. It's not about what they got and the money they have, but it's about following what they like. It's about they're happy with what they got. And they don't give a shit about everybody else. They're focusing on their own fulfillment and happiness, and they're contributing to their expansion, to making the world a better place in their own unique way. But when you don't follow your heart and you don't take action and you let fear consume you and setback and mistakes and you let that void grow, you have only one of two things. You either break that circle and you're like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go forward and do what I want to do and face that terror barrier, or you just continue to do what the fuck you're doing right now, and that's it, right? There's not, at the end of the day, life is pretty simple, but it's not easy. I get that, right? It's not easy because when you feel stressed and you feel anxious and you feel worried, I've been there and I get there sometimes. It's human. But we don't have to stay there. There's ways, there's tools, there's techniques, there's people, there's always resources, there's always people there to help you, to get you out of this. But it starts with yourself. You gotta take the first step. You gotta self-initiate this, because nobody is gonna come and save you. And waiting for somebody to come to save you, to give you things on a golden platter, won't happen. That's why they say God only helps people who help themselves. And so if you wanna break out of this vicious cycle, you gotta initiate, and you're gonna find out what you really want, and you're gonna take the first step toward there. And when you do that, then the next step will appear, and then you just have to keep the momentum. And before you know it, you created a new momentum for yourself.